Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the College Dunia series, Thoughtful Leaders, where we connect with leaders from different colleges and universities to understand their views on the education industry and the respective vision for their universities and institutions. This is an initiative to bridge the gap between the vision of top management and the aspiring students. These sessions are planned to help the aspiring students in order to make informed career choices and know much more about the colleges they are going to be a part of. To the viewers today, we have with us Professor Dr. Rakesh Jain. He is the director for Rajashri College of Engineering and has been handling the institute in the capacity for the last couple of years. Welcome to the platform, sir.
Thank you, Nitin, and thanks to the College Dunia for involving me in this interview. Thank you.
Sir, to begin the interaction, my first question to you is, being the director of RSCOE, can you throw some light on its genesis and what was the idea behind the establishment of this institution?
It's a question which is very important for any institution. Friends, Rajarsi Shahu College of Engineering, we call it RSCOE, is a premier institute in the state of Maharashtra and flagship institute of JSPM group of institutes, established in 2001 by a group of engineering teachers. A teacher, those who working in engineering college at that time, they started this college under the leadership of Dr. Tanaji Sawant. And their vision was empowerment of youth by imparting quality education. The team was a firm believer that socio-economic transformation of this country is possible only by imparting quality education. By keeping that theme and vision in the mind, and from day one, the institute was student-centric and academic focused. Journey goes on. We started with 150 students and 15 teachers in 2001. And I proudly say that today we have got more than 4,000 students with 6 disciplines of UG, 4 disciplines of PG. We have got PhD center in these 3 disciplines. And it is not just increase in the quantity, but I say that we also increase in the quality, and for that we set various benchmarks. First benchmark was getting NVA accreditation, and I proudly say that now today my institution is accredited by NBA 3 times. Then we decided to go for the NAC, and we got accredited by NAC with A grade and with a CGPA of 3.26. Pune University, now we call it Savitribai Phule Pune University. It is one of the best university in the country, always in top 10 rank in the country. And I always proudly say that my college is ranked and awarded by Pune University as a best college in professional college category. By taking all this, we applied to the NRF, and I proudly say that in first attempt only, we have been placed in the band of 201 to 250 by NRF. So these were the benchmark, and these were the our laurels we got. We have many more, but these are the major ones I'll tell you. In 2018-19, our team decided to go for autonomy. We applied to the UGC and university, and I proudly say that we conferred autonomy in 18-19. But Nitin, here is the point. We kept 1 year for preparation. We started our autonomy in 1920. We got permission in 18-19, so that we can keep our faculty, our stakeholders prepared for autonomy. Please, because we know that autonomy is not just changing the curriculum and examination system. It is also changing of the mindset of the person, those who are working, especially faculty. Till 17-18, they were working with affiliating system. Now we got autonomous. So we thought we'll prepare our mindset of the faculty in best possible way. And we started our autonomy after 1 year of due preparation. So now today I proudly say that we are an autonomous institution, entered in second year. And this is what our journey is.
Thank you for sharing your vision, sir. My next question is, have you introduced or are you planning to introduce new programs in the institution?
And Nitin, we got autonomy 2 years back, and we started our journey as Autonomous Institute now. We have got now two phases for planning. Phase one is where we want to strengthen and we want to make our existing courses contemporary with the need of industry and need of the society. And second phase will be there, start add few more courses to the institution. So now presently we are in phase one. Phase two maybe next year or maybe after 1 or 2 years. In phase one, what we have done, we have designed our curriculum so that they will be most, the student, those who are coming out from after getting the graduation from this curriculum will be readily, available to the industry without any, they should not have any reservation for that. That is one. Second thing, we also feel that students should have good vision for their future. So what we have done in the present curriculums, every program has 3 tracks. One track goes where a student will be directly going to serve to the society, to the industry. Track is where students will choose where they want to go for higher study or for the research. And third track is going, which we are really working very hard for that, where students are working for innovation and maybe they will take their own business at entrepreneurship. So we decided 3 tracks for all the branches. Apart from this track, we also giving major degree will be suppose BE civil engineering, but we are trying to give some minor specializations to them by completing few more credits or maybe some credit which in term of electro they will complete. For example, being a civil engineer, I can tell you better what we are doing. We want to have specialization like, BE civil engineering with, minor in the structural engineering, water resources, maybe transportation engineering. And that is one side, we are giving tracks and specialization. Other side, we are bringing the best of the best possible latest technology in the curriculum. For example, from first year itself, we have introduced, civil engineering surveying is there, and we already did survey through the dumpy level and theodolite. But here in the curriculum, we have kept surveying by using drone, which is a most useful and multi-useful, multitasking, instrument we can say today. Similarly, in second year, third year, we are going to bring even in civil engineering also a lot of new things. We are going to bring computer vision. We are going to bring BIM, that is called, building or information modeling, then virtual reality, sustainability, that will lead to the zero tolerance. That is part of the environmental engineering syllabus. Then IoT, we are going to bring in the curriculum of civil engineers. We want to add some smart material in second year level in the building material because lot of new materials are coming. So these all we are adding in our curriculum. Similarly, for other branches also, we are making lot of changes in the curriculum. For example, for mechanical engineering, we have MOU with the IIT Ropar, and IIT Ropar is helping us revamping our entire curriculum from first year to final year for mechanical engineering. For computer engineering, we have got MOU with the TCS, and they are helping us in developing our curriculum. For electronics and electrical engineering, we have discussion with KPIT, and they are helping us in designing our entire one track, which is for mechatronics and automation. So like that, we are also making a lot of tracks, a lot of specialization in our curriculum. We are ensuring that a student, those who are coming from this institution will be ready for Industry 4.0, and for that we are imparting Education 4.0. Education 4.0 is nothing but it is a education which will have a lot of flexibility, where students are going to choose their degrees. They choose. In fact, there is a dream. I don't know how much I can make it. Dream is that every student of my institution should design his own, mark sheet from first year to final year. What he wants, he should learn within the frame of N guidelines, which is designed by our academic council and by our governing body. So this is what is ultimate dream of Education 4.0. Let us see how we can work with the industry and how we can support to the society. Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you for sharing your vision, sir. My next question is, do you have any particular co-curricular or extracurricular activities which the college focuses on in order to make the students ready for the for the real world, to making them industry ready? Are there any particular activities that the college engages in?
We have a detailed, plan for co-curricular and extracurricular activities for students. I'll take this question in two ways. We have some activity at college level. For example, every year we have one, a national level program we call Innovation, where almost 2,500 students from all over the country participate in that program. Similarly, we have teams like, very cultural teams which working at college level, and they are showcasing their strength in the cultural activities like singing, dancing, all these things. We also have various clubs at college level, maybe robotics club, that is in the co-curricular activity, but we have got Protect Club, we have got Saswat Club, we have got NSS team. So all these teams are working on various themes related with, number one is personality development of the student. Second thing, through these platforms, student also trying to understand the problem of the society. For example, we have got Unnat Bharat Abhiyan scheme we are running at our college level with the help of MHRD. This scheme is given to many good colleges. And as part of this scheme, 100 students of civil engineering, we have taken maximum students from civil engineering, and they are visiting we have adopted 5 villages. We have given one village to 20 students. So they are trying to understand the problem of the rural India, problem of the farmers, and they're trying to support them. And also we are teaching them basic, principle of hygiene, good water, quality drinking water, and all these things, good sanitation system. So this is what we are doing as an extracurricular activity. Plus, as part of co-curricular, we have got, in every department, we have made a mandate. There should be some professional body chapters. For example, you take the example of civil engineering, we have got chapter of American Society of Civil Engineers. It is a topmost body in the world for civil engineering, professional body. We have got chapter of that ASC, we call it, chapter at our college. Students are engaged in that professional body. They are working on various, on various causes, and that repose go to ASC. Similarly, we have got geotechnical, Indian Geotechnical Society. We have got Indian Concrete Society. We have got chapter from remote sensing for outreach program of Dehradun, IISc Dehradun. Similarly, we have got clubs from other branches like IEEE. We have got IET. We have got ACM professional body. So every department we have got various professional body chapters, and 50 to 60 students form their own group in this chapter, and they work throughout the year for various co-curricular activities, maybe seminar, maybe small programs, conferences, and they learn by each other. For example, we have got SAE club. SAE professional body chapter is very active in our college. Students participate in BAHA and Supra programs through this, and our team of Supra is top 10 in the country. We have got now robotics club. We have got MOU with the Tata Tal Robotics, and we have established the laboratory for robotics, and they are also doing a lot of activities. And my robotics team has participated nationally, internationally in various competitions. They have lot of laurel to the institute, number one. We also learn a lot of things through their competitions. So this is what we do to make our student active in co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities, so that they can have multi-dimensions. We want to see an engineer who has got all dimensions required to become a good engineer after graduation. Thank you.
Building upon your answer, sir, what are the major challenges that you see the education industry facing in general, and what are the challenges that the institute might be facing going forward?
Challenges, and if there is no challenges, there is no growth. Since challenges are there, that's why we grow. But yes, higher education in this country has many challenges. This higher education is experienced phenomenal growth in our country after independence. And we have given very good scientists, engineers, technologists, doctors, teachers, managers to world over. In fact, I always say we are proud of IT. IT is not information technology, but Indian talent. And this IT and Indian talent has come out from this higher education only. But there are many problems also, challenge also. One of the biggest challenge I could see, I always realize, is demand and supply gap. And the challenge is because of our low GAR. Our gross enrollment ratio is very less. It is about 20, 18, 20, 22. It depends on the figures, but it is very less as compared to other developed countries. So this is one of the challenge. How we can how we can bring our children to the higher education. If this is not there, then there is another problem is coming is we are not having good revenue. So we are not able to provide good infrastructure and facilities to the children's. And this is leading to, some other problems. Problem is maybe shortage of good faculty. Shortage of good faculty is leading to the poor quality teaching. Our most of the teachers are trained for traditional teaching methods, but I proudly say now, because of COVID, teachers are also trained. They are also learning new techniques to teach. But friends, I'll tell you, there is no formal mechanism. Before joining the teaching, teachers should be trained. Now UICT started very good initiative. I appreciate that teachers training, and the teacher having less than 5 years of experience, they are trained by AST. But so far, till this is started new. So there was no formal mechanism, and the teachers, those who were coming out, joining that institution, there was some problem. Our curriculum is not that, I'll not say outdated or rigid, but yes, not changing fast. The pace at which industry and technology is changing, we are not changing that fast. Our pedagogy of teaching learning methods, still we need a lot of improvement in that. Coming to the research, since in our country PhD enrollment is very less, so research is less. Research is less means it is not only research, but a culture, ecosystem of creativity and innovation is not coming out. And it is resulting to the low level of industry engagement, because industry also want to see a institution which is very dynamic in research. So this problem is coming. There are many more programs like, our students are best of the brain. Those we are giving to our country from our institutions. They are not staying with the country, they go out. That is great. They are going, they are respected there, but at the same time, we are missing them. And ultimately, I'll tell you, overall quality need improvement. Because quality in higher education is a multi-dimensional, multi-level and multi-dynamic concept. Government is trying very hard to make it, but despite of all the efforts by UGC and all the regulatory body, still we are not in top rank in the world for education system, higher education system. That speaks itself that we have some challenges. And our friends, the challenges which I told for the country, we are also part of this. We are also facing some challenges. Only demand and supply challenge is not coming to us, but all otherwise revenue. We are private institutions, so revenue coming to us is very less. Despite of all this, I proudly say that we are doing our best. We are trying to do our best to give best to our children. Yeah, Nitin.
Thank you for the answer, sir. And moving forward, with the increasing competition, how does the curriculum of the college ensures that the best practices of the industry are being imparted to the students? And how do you guide the students and train them in order to make them ready to survive in the competitive scenario?
Nitin, what we are doing actually, I'll tell you, for the survival of our children, as I told in the beginning, now being Autonomous Institute, first we have met various industry stakeholders and we tried to bring what is best with them. So TCS, KPIT, Persistent, IIT Ropar, they are already our partners. They are helping us at national. These are national level partners. They are one of the best. Either institute or industry. One thing we have brought them to make the curriculum best of the best curriculum. Not only that, in every governing body, in our governing body, in our academic council and our board of studies, we have brought, senior industry personnel to be part of that. Okay, so that they can guide our students and they can guide us to make the best curriculum which is most useful to the industry 4.0. This is second thing what we have done, but we have not stopped here. To make our student globally competent, we are also looking forward to have other universities which is outside the country. We visited various universities in UK, USA, Singapore, then Malaysia, Thailand, and now I proudly say that we also brought the best practices from there, and now we have got MOU with them, so that when our student will come out from the college, he will be most competent and he will be globally acceptable. I just give you one quote. Today, 40 student from my college, they are working in one of the top university in the, Thailand, and they are doing e-internship. And such type of program we are bringing. I ensure that my student, there is a KSA, knowledge, skill, and aptitude. I ensure that all these three are coming while they are learning in 4 years. They are learning these four things by various means. One more example I'll give you. We are not only taking care of knowledge skill, we are also taking care of their communication skill. We have got induction program in first year. So after induction program, we conduct one survey of every student in the college, those who are coming in the first year. We track them into various categories, category A, B, C. Okay, category A may be, suppose, those who need very less, input. B may be little more, and C will be most maximum input required. We also do, through this survey, we also do one more thing. We try to understand their communication skills, how much they know English, because English is a compulsory language for learning engineering today. So we try to ensure that they will learn that. If they have good knowledge of English, then we give them the choice to learn foreign languages like either German and Japanese. So we have got German club, Japanese club, where students are learning these languages, so that students, those who are really good in English, they can have at least 2 languages when they come out from the college. And I'll proudly say that this Japanese initiative is very old, and now many students got very good placement in Japan, and they have got very good, even packages also. So this is what we do to make our students industry ready.
Building on this, sir, can you share your thoughts on the newly introduced education policy?
Thank you, really, Nitin. This is the question which really I was expecting from you. Because when I told challenges, then we were looking forward to solutions also, isn't it? So, friends, really, we are discussing with you at a very proper moment when our country has now new education policy. I'll start my discussion with the vision which is given by this policy. It is very important. If you read, I'll just quote that. The National Education Policy 2019 envisions an India-centered education system. That is first part, India-centered education system that contributes directly to transform our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. I think this vision itself speaks everything. Recently, I was listening to our Prime Minister. There was an inauguration of hackathon, and I was listening to him. He just gave few lines, and that speaks everything for the policy. He told, focus of this policy is on learning, not on degree. And learning is for questioning. This habit of questioning will help in problem solving. And this problem solving will ultimately help the society to solve the socio-economic issues of our country. I think this is what this policy is looking forward, that everyone will be same after maybe 10 years or 20 years. But if you analyze further, I told some challenges. One challenge I told you is a demand and supply. this challenge also taken care by this policy. Now, what we are looking forward in 2035, our GER should be 50%, and will be almost it will be at par with any country in the world. And please remember, this doubling of GER, this is not just doubling the number. Suppose today we have 35 million students, they will not go to only 70 million, but this will increase opportunity and access for a student from socio-economically disadvantaged background and areas. This is what this policy is looking forward. Great vision, I'll tell you. Doubling the GR is a great initiative. As I told, we are also having a lot of problem of resource crunch, and because of that, many institutes are having problem. So this policy has reforms. It is already decided long back, but this policy also reaffirms that national commitment of 6% of GDP as public investment in the education. So again, there's another point where we are also going to get good resources from the government so that we can impart best quality education to our children. If we are getting the good demand and supply, and if we are getting good resources, I think our country will be a best country. Already we are giving our best of the best talent to the world. We all know that 50% of our generation will be youngest generation. We have the highest youngest generation in the world. If we can take care through this policy, I'll tell you, we can take care of many problems which we are facing today. Yes, Nitin.
Before we conclude this interaction, sir, what would you like to communicate to our listeners about the key highlights of RSCOE?
If you want to know about Rajarshi Shaw College of Engineering, I can assure you as a academician that it is an institution which is now autonomous, having most contemporary syllabus, which is designed by best of the best brain in the country, maybe from the industry, maybe from the IITs like Ropar IIT. As I told, we have got BOS members from almost various NITs also, various IITs also. So the curriculum which we are imparting is one of the best curriculum in the country. Not we say country, but it is best curriculum, contemporary curriculum with that need of the industry. And be always proud that we are student-centric and we are academic focus institution. Here, every individual student is taken care with one of the we have got very meticulous system. We call it GFM, Guardian Faculty Mentorship Scheme. A scheme really for which this college is known from day one. And here, through this scheme, we are treating every student as our individual children, and we take care of. We want to see that we are the believer that every student have one thing or other quality. We ensure that he will flourish that quality when he is learning that. We are not making good student to average, but we are making every student to the best. This is what we do through imparting the quality education. So Nitin, conclusion is curriculum is best, institution is best, and not only that, the faculty members, those who are here in this college, are really dedicated to bring the quality vision in reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this interaction today, sir. Thank you so much for sharing the vision of the institute, your vision of leadership, and what the institution is striving to achieve in the future. Thank you for this interaction, sir.
Thanks to Nitin, for personally to you and to your entire team of College Dunia. Looking forward to meet you again. Thank you so much.